Okay, all right. Thanks, man. I'm excited for this conversation now. I'll start on something that I read. I don't know if it's true. Because I'm a big fan of Chinua Achebe first. I'm a
Okay.
big fan. I think when I went to Wikipedia, one of the first things is like, this was one of the worst books written by an African. I'm like, what? I mean, this is like, in the book club. We have a African literature book club. I met people read
Yeah.
Chinua Achebe every year. Like, we read Things Fall Apart. Only Things Fall Apart, we read it every year. And then now we're reading The Hour of God. I'm like, how can anybody insult my hero like that? I'm just curious, what was the context there?
I think it was taken out of context, right?
Yeah.
So I was talking to a journalist and I said, I do not understand why they think Things Fall Apart is the best book written by any African.
Yeah.
Because that's what goes on in the West.
Mm-hmm.
There are younger writers like Chigozie Obioma,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote The Fisherman and is in about 30 languages now.
Okay.
And Chigozie is not even up to, I think he's probably not up to 35 years, right?
Yeah, he's still young. He's pretty young, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I'm saying, why do we allow the West to keep harping on Things Fall Apart? Things fall apart, Things Fall Apart. In fact, my favorite Achebe's book is Anthills of the Savannah.
Okay.
It's one of the finest books I've ever read.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Things Fall Apart is not my kind of literature, right? It's even filled with grammatical errors here and there. if you read it, because Achebe is a hero does not mean that he's perfect, right?
Yeah.
So for them to keep talking about Things Fall Apart, oh, this is the best novel. That is an insult to African writers for real. That Things Fall Apart is the best novel by an African. It's an insult. It's an insult to writers who write in Shona, Igbo, Yoruba, Zulu. It's an insult.
There's a lot more books written in our languages as well,
Exactly. So that diminishes the effort these writers are making. But because the newspaper needed something, a beautiful caption and headline, they picked it, they put it there and refused to let people understand what I was trying to say. And it was a backlash because people started insulting me, started calling me all sorts of names. But I don't care about what people say about me. It's not really my business, I didn't pay attention to it. I already said what I said.
What is it? I see. That's interesting. What about I think there's, people like Ngugi wa Thiong'o who are writing in Kikuyu, for example. And I'm just curious, like, what's your views on that? On people, like saying, what, I'm not gonna write in the English or whatever language, foreign language it is. Like, I'm gonna write in Kikuyu. Like, do you have any views, strong or not, on that?
Yeah, but we know that nobody is reading books in those languages, right?
Yeah. I mean, limited audience.
We are writing them for ghosts and for examinations,
Yeah.
And I think they have even I don't think Nigerian languages are compulsory now in West African Examination Council. I don't think it's compulsory anymore. So we have already sold our soul to English language. So any effort Ngugi is making in indigenous languge is a Western effort, my brother.
Yeah. So
it is because he is talking about us reading in that language, but he doesn't live in Africa. He lives in America.
Yeah.
So some of the things Ngugi does, I don't understand them. I just don't understand them.
Oh, some of the things he does.
Yeah, I don't understand them. Yeah, I don't think he practices what he preaches.
Okay. So he's some sort of a Pharisee who is a biblical concept,
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to be a champion of such cause, I expect him to be in Nairobi. I expect him to be in Johannesburg. I expect him to be in Harare. I don't expect him to be in the United States of America.
Yeah. To actually, be, embody that, like, I think, sometimes there is a gap between what people say and what maybe they practice in a sense.
Yeah, I think people just want to make money and make. And say all those beautiful things to the West, to make it. They say they are Pan-Africanists. I don't know what that means. They say they are Pan-Africanists. Pan-Africanists who live in America.
Who live in America?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. One of the things I think one of the documentaries you shared, that I think, I read somewhere that you've identified as a feminist, and then also, I think you did this the documentary you did on Flora. So, Flora Noapa. I think I can see a picture right behind you there, Flora Noapa.
Yes, that's the cover of the documentary.
Yes. I'm just curious, like, why did you think she was important to highlight?
She very, very, very important. When I told Titi Dagaremba, I don't pronounce her name very well, but when I told her about the documentary, okay. When I met her, we were in Sweden, and I told her about the documentary I was doing. I was already actually on my way to Norway to get a footage of Flora, which was in a Norwegian TV station, because we can't find any documents or nothing in the African archive that we can find about African culture promoters or literary stars. We don't have anything. We have to go to British Museum for it. So, I told her, and she was so excited because she said this was the woman who inspired her. And she's not the only one she inspired. There are other female writers in Africa, like Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, that Flora inspired. So I said, okay, there is no woman is interested in making a documentary on this woman, right? And she's my aunt. She's my aunt.
She's your aunt. You're related.
Yeah. So I have access to every information that I could find.
Yes.
I have access to old pictures from her children, and her children were very, very supportive. They were ready to give me any information that I needed. They were ready to say, Onyeka, come into this room. Come into this room and take all the pictures that you want. Come into this room and take all the documents that you need. So I for years I was gathering these documents. And then I was fortunate to speak to Wole Soyinka, and he said, this documentary is long overdue. Because Flora was the strongest woman in the literary circle when they were writing.
They were writing.
That's what he said. So, but there was no day Flora called herself a feminist. But there were things she did at home. She married another wife for the husband.
That's
for her second husband. She did the things women could not do. Normally. Things women wouldn't want to do. Imagine me talking to your girlfriend now. Or another woman comes to talk to me, and then my own girlfriend will get angry for the woman talking to me. But Flora was, she was okay with women coming in to make her husband happy. She was not insecure. She had her own money. She was very wealthy. She bought her husband the most expensive car you could get in Nigeria in the 70s.
In that particular time. Wow.
Yes. She raised her husband's second wife's children as her own. They were calling her mother. They didn't know that was not their mother. And they were calling their own mother auntie.
I see. And they didn't know.
Yes. So it was important for me to bring out the story of this woman who, in my own opinion, was practicing polyandry. In some way, yes.
And
I think that
active in it,
I think that as a male feminist, there will be no equality if women are not allowed to marry as many husbands as they want.
So you think equality can be, is that the only path, or it's one path that you
think? No. It's not the only path. It's part of it. It's part of it.
It's part of it.
It's part of it. economically, yes, we should be equal. Marriage-wise, we should be equal. If a man can marry 7 women, a woman should be able to marry 7 men. I think is right. No matter what people want to say. If an African culture allows a man to marry 7 women, the same African culture should allow women to marry 7 men.
So she was
Flora did all that without shouting on Facebook or Twitter. She lived her life without shouting anywhere, without talking down on anybody, without screaming at anybody. She was traveling with her children and the children of her husband's wives. It's not even only one wife. They ended up 3 in the same house.
Wow. So if
exactly.
I'm curious, for people like Chimamanda, Ngozi Adichie Chimamanda, and people like Titi Dangarembwa, like what inspires them mostly from Flora's life or from Flora's literature, like.
I think a woman who could write, who could speak. She attended conferences without seeking for validation from men. She like Wole Soyinka told me that Flora published her own book. Bought her own book stand at conferences or book festivals, and brought herself there. She didn't need anybody to bring her or wait for anybody to say, she took herself to everywhere. She took herself to Scotland, France, for conferences without anybody's support, just her own.
She would do it by herself.
And then she did not need her husband's validation as well.
Right?
So
at that time, in that time, it's like that's way back. It's different from now. I mean, now maybe that might sound possible.
In fact, she was 8 years older than the second husband.
Okay.
He was her student, and later they got married. But the family did not approve of the marriage. She still went ahead. She still went ahead to do her thing. So I think those are the qualities that the younger writers then saw in her. And then she lived with Buchi and Mecheta. Buchi was writing her books in her house.
So
she was supportive of other people. Yes.
Wow. So
and then when others say, when the male publisher said, "Oh, we can't publish this," she went ahead to start her own publishing house.
Oh wow, she really is. But why then do you think people like her aren't well known, at least among ordinary? I mean, for people in literature they would know, but among just ordinary Africans or outside.
I will blame the women, not the men. It's not the women. I'm a man. I made a documentary, right?
Yes.
I spent money. I traveled to Northeast India. I traveled to Hong Kong, everywhere. To ask questions. I did not get a single support from any women apart from the until I finished making the film. And then the festivals being run by women now remembered, "Oh, Onyeka, you are supporting women, so come and screen the film there." That's not the right way.
That's
That's not the right way. Most of the women I was supposed to interview during the process of making the film refused to be interviewed.
Wow. Do you know why they were reluctant to be interviewed?
One, Chimamanda refused to be interviewed, and they gave me excuses. And I don't care what the excuse would be, but this is a project I was doing on a woman. I think it would have been great to be asked. It's a inspiration as well. So thank you very much. Then there is Zena Bakali.
Yes.
She's regarded. There is Zena Bakali in the northern part of Nigeria. I flew to Abuja. The moment I got to Abuja, she sent me a text that she was no longer interested in the interview.
That's
But when you watch the film, you see the men are the ones that openly spoke to me. The problem of women empowerment or whatever is women are their own problems.
So you mean women should be supporting each other? Women should be taking,
Women do not support themselves. Because even at the University of Johannesburg, it was still a man, Professor Ngadi, who became very much interested in Flora Mampa's work through me. It's the men that are interested in Flora's work, not the women. The women don't care.
Yeah. So is this a problem within, let's say, literature, like writing, where women may not be, out there supporting other women or supporting themselves in a way, or you think it's more like a broader problem as a whole?
I think it's a broader problem. Women don't like, you see, when a woman finds a man talking to, when a woman finds a woman talking to her husband, she goes after the woman to fight her.
Yeah.
Men don't do that. Men don't do that. If a man finds his wife with another man talking, he will go home and wait for the woman to come and then ask what happened. So I think they have a different definition of feminism.
Maybe it's it's the idea of power, right? Like in the sense that maybe women would attack another woman in that particular case. Maybe largely because of these power dynamics where they probably can't really say or attack the man in a sense. So they would try to attack another weaker not really less powerful member of the society.
I personally think that any African feminist who does not know Flora Nwampa is not a feminist. It's just what I call a social media feminists, the ones who go to market their wares online to shout and scream. If a feminist in Africa does not know Flora Nwampa, she's not a feminist. That's all. It's my own definition of feminism. That Flora was able to live openly her life. Her first, she lived like a true leader.
Yeah.
When the civil war started in Nigeria, she mobilized to take care of orphans and families that didn't have anything. She arranged for them to be flown to Portugal. She did a lot of things. The feminists today are not doing any of that. They're just wasting their time looking for who doesn't like them. Flora didn't do that. Flora didn't do that.
I see. Well, that's good. That's really interesting. I mean, I think looking at your work, I think it's somebody that I think everybody should be able to know. I think little kids.
I think so.
Little girls growing up, they should be learning from people like her. Because it's not always the time you find women who have this agency. Women who
the strongest female characters created in any fictional African work, they're all in Flora's writings. All her female characters are strong, wealthy women.
I see.
Who wouldn't let any man talk down on them?
Which of her works would you propose? Would you suggest to people like to start with? Especially
first, they need to start with her first work, Efuru, E-F-U-R-U, Efuru.
Efuru,
Efuru. Then they read Idu, and strangely, this third wife of her husband, his name is Idu. That's her second book is Idu, but she wrote it years before the lady got married to her husband. Years before she was even born.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I'm gonna ask more on African literature as well, like the direction it's taking as well. In the end I'm gonna ask you more about your work. I think you said Strangers of Brafontein, on the Nigerians as well as the African brand and the Nigerians in a sense. I'm just curious, like going back to the literature, to the literature part, some people would raise points like how African literature tends to be heavy. Some of the people when they read it, like, it's not like, some just, playful things. It's so heavy. It asks difficult questions. It raises difficult points, and it's criticizing some of these, bigger concept, and it's kind of heavy and sad in many ways. Like, I don't know, what's your view on that? Like, on African literature, is it heavy to you, or what? How do you see it?
No, I think there are different types of writings from different authors. There are the ones who are writing science fiction. There are the ones who are writing heavy books like Remi Ngamije. I think that's his name. Yes, Remi Ngamije. He wrote this book. It's called The Eternal Audience of One, and it's published by Blackbird Books.
Okay.
So, it's a different type of writing. When you are reading it, you are thinking of writings by Salman Rushdie, Zadie Smith, Then there is this book from, it's called Abyssinian Chronicles by Moses Isegawa from Uganda. So these are the kind of, they are heavy, you know, heavy books, you know, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And huge stuff. But then there are also the ones from other writers. Simple storytelling, simple. In fact, there are different writers. I don't think you can pigeonhole.
You cannot pigeonhole. You know? So is there a thing called the African literature, or there are African literatures?
No, you know, all these tags and names are from the West. We are their creation. You know that.
Yeah.
So whenever they tell us something, we just work with it.
So what should we as Africans, or you, how would you, you know, somebody wants to, you know.
We are English writers. So
yeah.
We're not African writers. We're English writers. Yeah, because the African writers are the ones who've written in Igbo language, Yoruba. You can't call a European writer an African writer.
Yeah. So
can you?
Chimamanda is not an African writer.
No, Chimamanda is an English writer, of course.
So what?
She's an African by origin, right?
Yes.
But her writing is English. Is in English.
So is it about the language, or is it about the way the
language? Is the language?
But what about
the language
and the story? Is it African?
No. Okay, what would you call this book by Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness? What would you call it?
Well, I mean, that's it's a book written by a European on his imagination of Africa at that particular.
So what would you call it? European literature or African literature?
I think it's European literature to me. I would not call that African literature. I would not call that
because it's written in European language, right?
It says more about him about his people than about.
No, but what language is he written in?
You know, I think he wrote that in English. Despite his English being bad as well at that particular point, but he wrote it in English.
No. What I'm asking is it a European language that he wrote it in? That's what I'm asking.
No, European language, yes.
But thank you. You have answered the question. Is European literature. So we as Africans writing in English, we are writing English literature, European literature.
So
it's simple.
So what if it gets translated to Igbo or to Zulu?
What is the original? In what original language was it written?
In this European language, and then
exactly. So this we are translating from this European language to an African language. It's still a European literature because it came from an European language.
Okay,
it came from a European language.
So in that case, people like Ngugi who writes in Kikuyu and then get translated to English, that's African literature then, in that sense.
Yes, that's Ngugi. Don't mind what I said earlier about him, but he's the only African author that we have. Including of course the only maybe well-known African author, I think in your definition, from the context of our conversation.
Yes, he's
right?
the only.
He's the only
African author.
He's the only African author that we have. He is the only one. There is no other African writer. Every other person is a masquerade of the European literature or something of that nature. We are just the creation of these guys, and there's nothing we can do about it.
We're gonna have to continue in that.
It's only in Ngugi.
Yeah. I think you mentioned Wallace, Onyeka. These are like some giants. In terms of playwrights, literature, and stuff. Yeah, go ahead. I know you got some thoughts on him, man.
No, I was going to say that I just read a manuscript of his for his new novel, which will be published very soon. He's written a new novel at the age of 86. He's the most hardworking, the most prolific African author.
Yeah. And you have, I don't know if the media cited you correctly. I think you have criticized him as well. in terms of, I think, his style of writing or something like that. You know,
he loves me to see. He loves me too much to see that as an insult. 2 weeks ago, I sent him feedback on his new book.
Yeah.
And about his dialogue, right? His dialogue.
Yes, his dialogue. Yes.
In fact, I told him 2 weeks ago again that he's incapable of writing about the lower class.
So what does that mean?
He doesn't see these things as insults. They are my observations, and he understands, because when you read his books, right? Like if you read Interpreters, his novel, the characters in the book, they all have the same voice. They speak the same way in dialogue.
Yeah.
If you The Lion and the Jewel, even CD and Lakunle, they sound the same way like educated people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But this is an educated man and uneducated lady.
Yeah. So in a way, it's him failing to create a character which has a different voice than the one he probably.
This is because he was raised in an upper class aristocratic family. Where our backgrounds influence who we become.
Okay.
So he has not had much interactions with lower class working people.
I see.
I think they communicate from afar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is what I told him 2 weeks ago. And he understands that. Because that is the truth. That is the truth. But if you come from a middle class family, you are able to write about the working class.
Yeah, because you have some interest.
Yes, you have met these characters, you can be able to recreate them, and they sound the way they are supposed to sound. But if you read a Soyinka writing, is an upper class narrator, like a god, talking to people down. So you can't blame him. Even when he writes for the elite.
For the elite, I see.
He writes for his own class of people. He's from an elitist family, so he needs to continue that way. He cannot become pretentious about who he is.
Yeah. So that's very.
But you know that many people have not had conversations with me. So when they read all these things online, they think I'm insulting these or that writers. No, I'm not insulting. I have huge respect for all of them because I was raised reading their books. It's their books that made me become a writer. So there is no way I'm disrespectful to them. No, I'm just observing things and speaking out. Because if you read Soyinka's writings, the dialogue the characters speak the same way. You try it yourself, bro. The characters speak the same way. So it's not an insult. It's just an observation. I love him too much.
It's I mean, that's good. I mean, because we also need to sort of, critique, some of these. I mean, it's not always easy to write about a group of people that you may not be very familiar with, or you are not even in that society.
Because if you check his story, if you check him properly, he has not really had any interaction with working class people, even when he was in prison. They ended up putting him in a solitary confinement.
A separate place.
So he has always been living up there without really knowing. He's not conscious of his class. But it reflects through his thought when you're speaking to him. He has deep knowledge of the world, but he does not understand the aesthetics of the commoner. The common life.
I see. And he admits that, I guess. Does he admit that?
Yeah, he does, because he didn't take offense when I said it to him. He didn't defend himself or anything. He left it that way. He didn't speak about it.
I see. Yeah. So I'm curious, before we jump onto the Nigerians part, I'm curious on the, one of my favorite writers is, Dambuzo Marechera. He wrote The House of...
They used to compare me to Dambuzo earlier on when I was on social media.
That's the feeling, right? Like, somebody, he was more... I don't know what to describe him. He was just, he has his opinion. He just say it the way it is, very raw. I mean, he was angry as well, and in many ways, I'm curious, what's your relationship in terms of your writing with Dambuzo or your films, Dambuzo, or like, is there any inspiration of some sort, or what do you think of him?
House of Hunger, right?
Yes, House of Hunger.
Yeah, I read it, but he had a a splintered mind. Like his mind was everywhere.
Yeah, that was him. I don't think he would deny that either.
Yeah, his mind was everywhere. So when people started comparing me to him was when I read House of Hunger.
Yeah.
I wasn't really inspired because I knew what my problem was.
Yeah.
The way that I was sounding like him, yes, because I was later diagnosed of bipolar 1.
Okay.
Which was the reason why I left social media. One of the reasons.
One of the reasons. Okay.
Yeah, because I was hurting people without knowing. I would say things about people without knowing that it will hurt them.
Yeah.
I would attack people without thinking about it, and then maybe after some days I would regret those things I said.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm feeling a little bit dizzy. So I think that's where the comparison ends. But I wasn't. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of Dambuzo.
Of Dambuzo. I'm curious though. I mean, that you have a bit of understanding, appreciate, or actually deeper understanding on mental health as well. I mean, Dambuzo did write a lot about mental health. I think one of the things in Africa that people think is a concern is that mental health. Even I think Chimamanda wrote about this in her book as well. Where people just say, we Africans don't have depression and all the different things. So I'm just curious, like from the literature to the society, do you have any views on that?
On mental health?
Yeah.
Yeah, like my case is genetic. I was diagnosed of it, and then I have a couple of people in the family who have been through that. And they have told me not to discuss it publicly, but I can't keep it to myself. My family, they asked me not to talk about my mental health publicly.
I see. I mean, we can.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't jump it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't jump it. So I wouldn't jump it. I've been creating characters with mental illness for a long time.
Yes.
In fact, I have another book. It's called The Magnificent Children of God, which should be published later on. I don't know when.
Yeah.
But my agent is trying to get publishers for it. It's about a mentally ill young man who is in Harvard. He came from Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use that to say to Nigerians, what is happening to you is mental illness, not stress. You're not stressed.
Mm-hmm.
You are mentally ill. Mm-hmm. That's why you are behaving the way you're behaving. You just match someone on their feet in Nigeria and then they hit you.
Yeah.
They hit you. Instead of them to accept your I am sorry, they won't accept it. They will start fighting you. And people think, oh, Onyeka, you have everything going well for you. Why would you say you're depressed? You can fly to the UK when you want. You meet Wole Soyinka, you meet Obasanjo, you meet everybody. I said that's not the issue. People are ill in Nigeria, mentally ill. And then I had an encounter with a psychologist in Nigeria who started preaching the Bible to me and told me that it was because I don't believe in God. That's why I'm depressed. A psychologist.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, since I can't find a good psychologist in Nigeria, I had to take my case to South Africa, where you have capable hands, where you have a good healthcare system.
Yeah.
And I've been on medication. I'm on medication every day,
Yeah.
The day I missed my medication, it felt like the whole world was coming to an end. But using medication now sort of stabilizes my mood. I use what they call lithium carbonate. I see. And Respirodon. So I have to swallow them every night around 11 at night. So the medications will calm your mood and you feel like the world is starting afresh, Yeah. And then after 24 hours, it expires.
And then you have to take
So you take another one.
Yeah.
So, and I know a lot of young Nigerians who need, a lot of young Africans who need this medication. But because they don't care, they say, oh, no, let's go and smoke some weed. Weed will help us. They go and smoke weed. And then they end up on the street or drunk or something like that. Was that not what was happening to Dambuzo?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's really, he ended up on the street. You know, it was mental illness. Like, and he will speak about it all the time in his books as well. You know, so,
But he never used medication, right?
I'm not sure about the medication part. I mean, you know, I think in Zimbabwe even today, I mean, you know, mental illness is still is stigmatized. You know, so it's you know, and you know, the whole idea of admitting that there is a problem or there is something related to mental health, you know, that's something that people don't really fully usually get on board with. You know, they, you know, some people would come with things like, oh yeah, it's some demons and all that different things. You know,
Yeah, they come with those that part of the demon for me
yeah.
too.
Yeah. So it's a in a way. So what do you think should be, you know, I honestly think in Africa, you know, mental health, you know, these mental health crises like almost throughout Africa, like, but there is that gap in terms of addressing this. What do you think should be done, you know, in your view? You know, you know, it's good that you're writing about it, but what do you think should be done, you know, for people, for ordinary people from a government perspective or whatever, you know, like what do you think should be done to start having this conversation or to actually act?
I don't know, but I think if people really love themselves, they should just go check in themselves at the hospital. It doesn't cost much.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful to South African governments that someone who is mentally ill can go to the psychiatry after recommendation from the psychologist and get treated.
Get treated,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
I think the doctors there are really doing well, very kind, helpful, very cautious. When you come, they treat you well, you know, talk to you normally. And even with the whole mentally ill people sitting in a lounge and talking to themselves, shouting, you know, the doctors are still calm.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for every young person to be able to understand themselves first and say, hey, let me go to the hospital and see what is wrong with me.
Yeah. That
you know, same way you go to the salon to cut your hair.
Yeah.
You go to the hospital, go to the psychologist, I do that all the time. What did I do a few days ago? My feet. I had to go and do pedicure. I do that the same way I go to the psychiatry or go for dentistry. You know?
Yeah.
I do that. Yeah, so you must not have the conversation with people. You can have that conversation with yourself and treat yourself. So you don't become a threat to the society. I know that I'm already a threat to people, but I control myself with medications. I can't hurt anybody. And the first step I took was to remove my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter.
Yeah.
Because the democratization of those platforms will make me go and say the things that I wouldn't normally say.
Yeah.
When the brain is moving this way, right?
Yeah.
You go online because you're alone. You have to release yourself by speaking. You know, when you're mentally ill, you talk all the time. You are really your brain works very fast.
Yeah.
But when you're using risperidone, the medication I talked about, your brain stops working.
Okay, so it calms it down or something.
Yeah. You don't talk. Even when you're sitting with people, you can't say much.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Some people might think you are snobbish if you're sitting with them after taking respirator.
Oh.
But you can't talk. Yeah, you can only respond in few words, 1 or 2 words, and they'll be confused. So, but if you're not using it, you just go online and talk. I was jailed in Rwanda because of my tweets. I was tweeting at Paul Kagame.
Yeah.
And I didn't know he was the one using his Twitter, you know. So the immigration already had my name. When I got into the country, they came to my hotel and picked me and put me in prison for 7 days.
Yeah.
Well, that is what. But the people who arrested me didn't know that they were dealing with a mentally ill person.
Okay. Yeah.
You get it now?
Yeah, definitely. It makes sense. So
yeah. So it works differently in each country. And when I went to Nigeria, they told me, oh, you need to pray so that this thing will go away. If you don't pray, it won't go away. And then when I come to South Africa, they tell me, hey, you need this medication, you need caring, you need this food, you need this thing, you need to avoid these places. All these things are important. So the problem is not having the conversation. It's not even about the politics. It's about the human beings in those places.
I see, I see, I see, I see, I see, I see, I see.
Yeah, because I can tell you South Africa is more developed than any other African country.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about that.
Both the people, the infrastructure, everything. They have found a way to heal themselves. But what are we doing? Rwanda will put a mentally ill person from another country in prison without checking his medical history.
Yeah.
Yet they are praising Kagame. They are praising him. Look at it.
Yeah.
And I kept telling them, I was telling them too. Say, I have my doctor's report. Can you look at it? I can't be in this prison. How do you traumatize someone who is mentally ill?
Yeah.
How do you put him on a bed floor?
Yeah.
Someone who is mentally ill. How do you do that? South Africa would never do it to anybody.
They would really look into it, like, but I mean, it shouldn't be like that. It's I think it's something that I think most governance people need to actually understand in a way. I mean, thanks for sharing that. I think I personally think it's important to have people to have conversations with themselves or with other people on mental health within Africa. So the last part I want to just quickly go through on the the Nigerians. The Nigerian Ibgos, to be specific, are most of the people you find anywhere in the world. The image that they have, at least here in Asia where I am, be it in Guangzhou or anywhere, the image that the Chinese would have of Africans is usually the image of Nigerian Ibgos. So that means we as Africans are in many ways dependent and vulnerable on our brand as Africa, on how the Nigerian Ibgos handles it. Because if they do nasty things, all Africans are gonna be, put in that category, or any black person, Jamaican or Haitian or something like. I know you are writing a book, I think you said Strangers in Brampton, where you were sort of.
And I've also made a film, Umfakazi, narrated in Shona.
It narrated in Shona. I'm gonna check that one out. I'm gonna check that one out.
No, it's in post-production now.
Okay, it's not okay. All right. So I can't wait for it then. I can't wait for that one. So what's your comment on that? I mean, me as an African, I'm, when I go anywhere, people are like, oh, I know the Nigerians. If the Nigerians do well, we are all happy, like, oh yeah.
But also when they do well, nobody talks about it.
It's usually on the bad side.
yeah, they don't talk about it. Nobody talks about the good of the Nigerians. Nobody remembers that Chimamanda Adichie is Igbo.
Yeah, they wouldn't. They would. They probably not highlight.
Nobody remembers that the so-called best African novel, Things Fall Apart, was written by an Igbo.
By an Igbo man, they wouldn't.
But nobody remembers that Chigozie Obioma, the fisherman, is an Igbo man.
Is an Igbo man. Yeah, nobody would remember that.
Do you know why people like to speak about the negativity of Nigerians or Igbo people?
I don't know. What I know though is that Chinua Achebe criticized
envy.
Sometimes.
It's envy and jealousy.
So you think it's mostly jealous and envy?
Yes. So because Igbo people are usually proud people, very proud. So it translates to arrogance.
Okay, got it.
So when you meet an arrogant person, you become angry. You hate the person without knowing why you're hating.
I see.
So Igbo people brag a lot.
So that usually comes
out
when
someone doesn't like you, all he wants to see is the negative part of you. That part, the dark side of the person that, so let me use it against him.
Yeah. So
because there is nothing that Igbo people are doing that the Lebanese or the Chinese are not doing. Like crime. Is it crime?
Everybody
we are not, Igbo people are not better than Lebanese or Chinese people in crime.
Yeah.
We're not. Yeah, but why? Because the Chinese love to be isolated. They love their cycle.
Yeah.
But Igbo people, they try to integrate with every other person.
Oh, and then they can be there. People can see, they can be able to interact with them. So what, in your book, the one you'll be publishing soon, I hope, on the the Strangers in Brampton, like what are you going to talk about? What are you? I mean, without ruining it, what without spoiling it, in a sense, what are you?
I don't think anybody can spoil anything for anybody. When they say, so it's the story of Nigerians in Braamfontein.
Yeah.
That I have created. The characters that I have created from different tribes in Nigeria who live in Braamfontein, and how they love themselves, and how they gang up against the Angolans, against the Congolese, and how they build friendship with the Zimbabweans, because they are the two nationals who are called bad names in South Africa.
Yeah.
The Zimbabwean and the Nigerian, everywhere they team together. When you go to Braamfontein, you see saloons run by Zimbabweans and Nigerians. They're always together, always together. So I started asking questions. I said, what is the relationship between the Zimbabwean and the Nigerian? And then I started checking the names. Zimbabwean Shona names sound like Igbo names.
Okay. Yeah, I think it makes sense. The Shona names are pretty close in a sense. Yeah. Now that
the two languages are from the Bantu language. The Bantu language. Yeah, they sound the same way. So many like chi, they have a lot of chi in Shona.
Yes.
Shona, we have a lot of chi in Igbo language. So I needed to create a character called Chamai in my book, and then there is Chike, Chamai and Chike. So they work together and they live in Braamfontein, and then how they are surviving in a country that is always against foreigners.
Yeah.
So that's why I call it the strangers of Braamfontein. So the story of strangers in South Africa. So all the characters, there are few South African characters, probably the police or something, but every other character comes from different countries.
I see. So do you feel like your book would shed more light in terms of understanding the xenophobia problem in South Africa as
intentionally I wanted to write a story that South Africans will read and say, oh, so this is what happens among these foreigners.
Okay.
So this is this is how these foreigners are surviving, because for South Africans, they think the foreigners cannot survive without them,
which is not
which is not true, because they say, oh, these Nigerians are taking our jobs. No, these Nigerians come here. They come here and create jobs. They open their restaurants. They open their own shops. They create jobs for themselves. They are not stealing your jobs. They are not working in home affairs. They are not stealing your jobs. So that's what I'm trying to do with the book. And it's very fortunate that the first publisher that picked the book is a South African publisher, Blackbird Books.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that would actually shed more light on the sophisticatedness of these characters as well, like to a South African.
And it's not a huge book. It's a small, slim novel, written in simple language as well.
Yeah.
But a lot of pidgin English, a little bit of Shona, and people will be asking what my obsession with Zimbabwe is.
Yeah. So what do you think is your obsession with Zimbabwe? Like why?
I don't know, but I have close friends who are Zimbabweans, like Tawan P.S. Quint. He's my friend. He's a musician. There is Alan John, who's an actor who featured in my film. My hairstylist is Zimbabwean. I love Shuma. You know her, right? The writer.
Oh, Shima Chinojiga.
No, she lives in the U.S.
Oh, Shuma. I'm not sure which one is this one. I think I haven't.
Shuma Violet.
Oh, you mean no Violet?
Nuvoya.
Violet Bulawayo. Okay, of course. Yeah.
No, Nuvoya. Yeah, House of Stone.
House of Stone. Yes. I do. I remember that one. Yes.
Yeah, I've known her for a long time, maybe 2010, 11, and I've got so many of them.
A friend of mine criticized that book, for I can't recall what was the House of Stone.
No, I think she's a young woman full of wisdom. She's very, very, very wise and intelligent, and if you are free to criticize anything, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
But it's not easy to write a book, and then which is historical. It's not easy to write a book like House of Stone.
Yeah.
You have to put all your heart to it. So the ones like I don't remember who said this, but they say a critic is like a union in a harem. They know how to have sex, but they can't have sex. so it's easy to criticize the book. She's doing well. She's intelligent. She's kind of hyperactive. She's one of those young people I admire a lot, you know. So
I see.
Anybody can criticize whatever. So maybe that was, my obsession with Zimbabwe is from all
these relationships you have with the Zimbabweans, you know. I'm curious, you know, as you wrap this up, like what are some of the upcoming, you know, African, ethnically, some African ethnicity. I know that's going to be harder to use the word African in terms of literature. You know, African writers whom you think, or African filmmakers whom you think, you know, we should be putting our eyes on. Who are those whom we think maybe we are not? I think people like maybe no Violet Flower. Like, what kind of people do you think we should be putting our eyes on?
I don't know. I don't know if Akin Omotosho is young. I don't know if he's young.
Okay, all right.
You know Akin Omotosho.
I don't think I can recall.
He made the film Vaya. It's a South African film.
Okay.
Vaya. And then he made Man on Ground, also about xenophobic attacks.
Okay.
And then his sister is Yewande Omotosho, who wrote Bomb Boy.
Okay. Yeah. So
he's one of those writers that I look up to a lot. Quiet, smart. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's shooting a series for Netflix now.
I see.
And then there is a filmmaker called Ishaya Bako. Yeah, he made a film called Braids on a Bald Head.
Okay.
And then there's another one called Fourth Republic. Mm-hmm. And then there is another one he made called Road to Yesterday with Genevieve Nnaji.
Yeah. People who know her now, Genevieve Nnaji.
I know him personally, and knowing that he has something upstairs, you know.
Okay.
Yes. I wouldn't. For the writers, I would always say people should keep reading Chigozie Obiama's writing. You know.
I see.
He's made me proud.
Yeah. Have you read the book Under the Udala Tree?
Chinelo Quaranta.
Yeah. Have you read that one?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just curious because it has a gay character in Biafra during the Biafra conflict. I'm just curious. I think there's also something in Zimbabwe as well. Something Harare or something like that. A barbershop. Someone who's like a gay character's innocent. I'm curious. What do you think? Do you think is that kind of literature in Africa today? Can open a path for people to understand more, or could it be? I'm just curious. Like, what do you think that kind of literature would it be accepted in many ways? So, because
I don't think any writer should write bearing acceptance in mind first.
Okay.
You are creating believable characters, right?
Yeah.
Like in my new book that I talked about, there are the escorts.
Yeah.
And the male-to-male escorts in South Africa. There are men who are having sex with men for money.
Yeah, in your book.
But these characters exist. If you go to Cape Town, there are a lot of them in Cape Town. There are them everywhere. I'm sure they're in Hong Kong. I'm sure they're in Lagos. I'm sure they're in Harare. Mm-hmm. So you don't think about being accepted now.
Yeah.
Or the writing being accepted now. Just write. These characters will come out in human form in the next 5, 3, 6 years.
I see.
So I think the job of the writer is just to entertain, to tell a story, to document history that will happen or might have happened.
I see. Wow, that's very good. Yeah. That's very good because for some of the people usually with like, okay, should I write this? Will people accept it? But I think that's good. You write it. You just write it. Maybe in the future things.
No, if you spend that time thinking about what to write and what people are going to say, I don't think you're able to write anything.
Yeah, you won't be able
because the way my mind works, I've never bothered about hey, like the interview we are having or the conversation we are having,
Yeah.
I'm not bothered about what people are going to say about what I've said.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
If they have their own opinion and they are keeping it to themselves, fine for them. But I cannot keep things to myself. I can't bridle my tongue or hold my feelings and all those things. No, I say things, I express myself the way I want.
Yeah.
And just like Rwanda to Roy said, she said a story is like the surface of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever I say, people should just take it like that.
Take it
if
like
they don't
that.
want their problem.
I see. I mean, thanks so much. I mean, this, you know, this has been quite an interesting conversation. I mean, we should definitely, you know, catch up more. You know, especially
yes, and I love the fact that you have a deep interest in literature.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, literature liberated me in many ways. You know, without literature,
awesome.
You know, without literature,
awesome.
You know, there's a lot of forces around there. You know, I think literature, you know, is something that I think I'm passionate about, and I think all people should be. You know, because maybe people liberate in different ways. So I'm really, really a big fan of literature. You know, yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll see what more to do within this side in terms of literature. You know, be it you know, some sort of writers. You know, bringing writers over here and having, you know, lectures and discussions. You know, that we're looking in that direction. Definitely, we're looking in that direction because.
Let me know how I can be of help.
Definitely, I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch. Yeah, thank you so much. You know, I know, you know, it's the afternoon there. It's already night this side. You know, maybe lunchtime on your side. You know, yeah.
Thank you so much. Man.
Okay, thank you. All right, see you.
All right.
All
Bye.
Right. Bye-bye. Sure.